In every great story, there's always a guide, a figure who appears in the fog of confusion to whisper truth into chaos. Sometimes he wears a robe and lives in a marble palace. Other times, he's a small green creature living in a swamp, speaking in riddles about fear, patience, and control. What if I told you that these two figures, the Emperor of Rome and the Jedi Master of a distant galaxy, were speaking the same language of wisdom? Marcus Aurelius and Yoda. Two beings separated by 2,000 years, yet united by the same law of the universe. Control your mind, and you control your world. Lose it, and you become a slave to your passions. Welcome to the Stoic Lighthouse. Let the Stoic Lighthouse guide you toward peace and wisdom. If this topic already speaks to something inside you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps this light reach farther into the world. The reason Yoda's words still echo through generations isn't just because of Star Wars, it's because his lessons are ancient. His teachings about fear, discipline, and detachment are reflections of Stoicism itself, the same philosophy that guided Marcus Aurelius through wars, Seneca through political chaos, and Epictetus through the hardships of slavery. As Ryan Holiday says, wisdom isn't invented, it's rediscovered. Across time and space, the human struggle is the same. How do we stay calm when everything falls apart? When Yoda says, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering, he's not describing the path of the Sith. He's describing the chain reaction inside every human mind. A spark of fear turns into rage, then resentment, and finally pain. Chrysippus, one of the great architects of Stoic thought, explained that passion is not an external force, but a judgment, a choice to interpret the world in a distorted way. Yoda's warning is a map to the same inner terrain that Stoicism has charted for centuries. The connection between the Jedi Code and Stoic philosophy runs deeper than most realize. Both teach us that real strength doesn't come from domination or from emotion. It comes from restraint. It's not about how hard you can strike, but how still you can remain when chaos surrounds you. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Remember, your mind becomes dyed with the color of your thoughts." Yoda might have said the same thing in fewer words. Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. Both understood that mastery begins with mastering perception. In this story, we'll explore the 8 hidden bridges that connect Yoda's galaxy to the Stoic universe, the shared laws that govern serenity, duty, detachment, and moral courage. By the end, you'll see that the Force and the Logos might not be so different after all, and that the real Jedi training begins not with a lightsaber, but with your own mind. Number 1, the war within, mastering the storm of emotion. Every war that truly matters begins inside the human mind. When Yoda looks into the eyes of Luke Skywalker, trembling with fear and impatience, he knows that the real battle won't be fought with a lightsaber. It will be fought against the chaos within. Fear is the path to the dark side, Yoda warns. But that darkness he speaks of isn't mystical, it's psychological. Fear becomes anger, anger becomes hate, and hate becomes suffering. That chain reaction doesn't exist only in galaxies far away. It happens every day, inside every one of us. Centuries before Yoda, Chrysippus described this same phenomenon. He argued that emotions aren't natural disasters striking us from outside, but judgments we've corrupted from within. When we decide something beyond our control has power over us, we give birth to the very emotions that enslave us. These misguided reactions, what the Stoics called Apatheia, are illnesses of the soul. And like Yoda's dark side, they can only be healed through discipline, awareness, and reason. Musonius Rufus, the Roman teacher of virtue and restraint, once explained that emotional chaos is not a sign of strength, but of weakness disguised as passion. Musonius Rufus said, "Self-control is the foundation of courage and freedom alike." That's the heart of the Jedi Code and the Stoic path. Both demand that we see emotions not as enemies, but as wild forces that must be trained, not suppressed but mastered. Rage, envy, and fear are like untamed energy. If you control them, they can serve you. If you don't, they'll destroy you. William B. Irvine, one of today's leading interpreters of Stoicism, teaches a similar lesson for the modern world. He describes anger as a tool that backfires. Each time we let it ignite, it harms us more than the one we aim it at. That's what Yoda means when he says that fear leads to suffering, not because emotion itself is evil, but because losing control of it blinds us to reason. When Luke enters the dark cave of Dagobah, Yoda tells him, "Only what you take with you." Inside, Luke meets a vision of Darth Vader, a reflection of his own fear and potential for rage. The cave isn't a location, it's a metaphor. Every one of us carries such a cave within. The faces we fear most are often mirrors of our own unmastered impulses. Ryan Holiday expands on this when he writes that strength is born through adversity, not comfort. Ryan Holiday reminds us, the obstacle is the way. For Yoda, and for every Stoic mind, the same truth holds. Emotions are not chains, they're challenges. They are the test that forges wisdom, the fire that tempers the soul. The greatest enemy is not the empire around you, it's the empire of noise, fear, and reaction within you. The Jedi learns to calm the Force, the Stoic learns to calm the mind. Both discover that peace is not the absence of storms, but the power to remain still while they rage. Number 2, the mind anchored, the power of the present moment. Luke Skywalker's biggest weakness wasn't fear of failure, it was his obsession with what might happen next. As he trains on the misty swamps of Dagobah, his mind keeps drifting. To his friends in danger, to his uncertain destiny, to battles not yet fought. Yoda, sensing this restlessness, stops him cold. All his life, he says, he has looked away, to the future, to the horizon, never his mind on where he was. That single moment captures one of the deepest truths of both Jedi wisdom and Stoic philosophy. The inability to stay present is the root of all anxiety. The Stoics called this error prolepsis, the habit of imagining the future instead of living the moment. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, taught that tranquility is found only when we align our attention with reality itself. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only time that truly belongs to us is now. Modern life has made this even harder. Our world runs on distraction, notifications, deadlines, and an endless stream of what-ifs. The human mind has become a spaceship lost in hyperspace, always somewhere else. Yoda's rebuke to Luke is the same wake-up call we need today. Come back to the moment. Chrysippus described the present as the seat of reason, the only place where choice and virtue can exist. If we let our thoughts drift into the unchangeable past or the imaginary future, we abandon our power. Anxiety is simply the mind trying to control what does not belong to it. As Donald Robertson, a modern Stoic writer and cognitive therapist, explains, much of our suffering is self-created theater, stories we invent about what might happen. Donald Robertson notes, the mind rehearses disasters that rarely arrive, but the body still pays the price. Luke's impatience was that same mental theater, imagining failures before they occurred. For both the Stoic and the Jedi, peace begins with reclaiming that energy, grounding it in the only point where action is possible, this breath, this choice, this instant. Ryan Holiday echoes this truth through his reflections on stillness. Ryan Holiday writes, stillness is not about inaction, it's about presence, it's the space between stimulus and response, where wisdom lives. Yoda's lesson is a training in that very stillness. The Force, like the Stoic logos, does not speak in noise, it speaks in silence. When the mind stops racing toward imagined futures, it begins to hear the quiet harmony of the present. That's why Yoda's greatest power was not his telekinesis, but his patience. His calm in the swamp was his real mastery. In an age defined by distraction, Yoda's warning feels prophetic. We scroll instead of reflect, plan instead of live, anticipate instead of act. Yet everything we seek, peace, strength, clarity, is already here waiting behind the noise. The mind anchored in the present cannot be enslaved by the future, and that, both for a Jedi and a Stoic, is the beginning of freedom. Number 3, let go of what you fear to lose, the practice of detachment. Few moments in Star Wars are as emotionally charged as when Anakin Skywalker, haunted by visions of Padme's death, turns to Yoda in desperation. He wants a way to prevent fate, to rewrite the future, to grasp what he loves so tightly that the universe itself must obey him. But Yoda, calm as ever, answers not with comfort, but with clarity. Death is a natural part of life, he says. Rejoice for those who transform into the Force. Mourn them not, miss them not. Attachment leads to jealousy, the shadow of greed, that is. And then comes the line that defines the entire Jedi philosophy: train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. This isn't cold indifference, it's spiritual maturity. What Yoda teaches here is the same lesson that Stoicism has taught for over 2,000 years. That the source of suffering isn't loss itself, but our resistance to the truth of impermanence. Everything we love, people, possessions, status, is temporary. The wise do not deny love. They love deeply but freely without clinging. Chrysippus described this detachment as harmony with nature, understanding that we do not own the things we cherish, we simply borrow them. To want permanence in an impermanent world is to wage war against reality itself, and in that war, we always lose. Musonius Rufus, the teacher of restraint and balance, once said something that could have guided Anakin away from darkness. Musonius Rufus said, "Enjoy what you have without letting it own you. Possession is not ownership, it's a test of your discipline." That's exactly what Anakin failed to understand. His love became fear, and his fear became control. The same emotion that should have given him strength instead devoured him. His tragedy is the perfect illustration of what happens when desire becomes attachment, when we try to freeze time and call it love. Modern Stoic thinkers like William B. Irvine often talk about this through the lens of negative visualization, the practice of imagining loss to deepen gratitude. William B. Irvine teaches, by contemplating the impermanence of what you love it more purely, not out of fear, but appreciation. Yoda's counsel to Anakin is this same exercise in disguise. To let go is not to love less, but to love without chains. The more we accept that everything we have is on loan from the universe, the more present and thankful we become. Ryan Holiday has often said that philosophy is preparation, not for death, but for life lived fully. To accept loss is not despair, it's liberation. When you no longer fear losing something, nothing can control you. That's the moment when love becomes unconditional and courage becomes effortless. The tragedy of Anakin is that he sought control over life itself, and in doing so, lost both love and peace. Yoda, like every Stoic sage, reminds us that the only thing we can ever truly control is ourselves. When you learn to release your grip on the uncontrollable, you finally discover the freedom that cannot be taken. Let go. And in that letting go, you find the Force. Number 4. The Phantom in the Machine, the Force and the Logos. Every philosophy begins with one question: what holds the universe together? For the Stoics, the answer was Logos, the divine rationality that orders all things. For the Jedi, it was the Force, an invisible energy connecting every living being. On the surface, they seem like reflections of the same truth, but if you look deeper, you find a profound difference in how each tradition views light and darkness. A difference that reveals why Yoda, for all his wisdom, is not quite a Stoic. In Star Wars, The Force is split between two sides, light and dark, creation and corruption. It's a cosmic tug-of-war where good and evil exist as external powers. But the Stoics saw no such duality. The universe, to them, was a single unified organism governed entirely by reason. Chrysippus described it as a fire infused with order, divine, rational and self-contained. There was no dark side fighting against it. Evil, they believed, was not a cosmic force. It was a human mistake, a shadow cast by ignorance. Chrysippus wrote, "The universe is one living being, with a single substance and a single soul, reason pervading all things." For Yoda, the danger lies in being seduced by an external energy, the dark side calling from outside the self. But for a Stoic, the only enemy is internal, the corrupted judgment that turns reason into delusion. There are no demons whispering in our ears, only thoughts we haven't examined. This is where Stoicism offers something even more radical than Jedi philosophy. The Stoic does not fight darkness in the world. He dissolves it within himself. He doesn't see the universe as a battlefield between light and dark, but as a rational whole where even pain and loss serve a higher order. Ryan Holiday often captures this when he says that everything that happens can serve us, if we let it. Ryan Holiday reminds us, where one person sees tragedy, another sees training. The Stoic doesn't fear the shadow, he learns from it. He sees the same energy that destroys as the one that creates, depending on how it's used. Fire can burn or forge. The Force can heal or corrupt. The difference lies not in the cosmos, but in character. Massimo Pigliucci, another modern Stoic philosopher, calls this the moral monism of Stoicism, the belief that good and evil are matters of perception, not metaphysics. Massimo Pigliucci explains, "The universe isn't divided into good and bad. Our interpretations divide it. The wise person stops splitting the world and starts understanding it." That's the essence of Stoic cosmology, a faith not in conflict, but in coherence. Yoda's worldview still carries traces of dualism, light fighting dark, Jedi versus Sith, balance as a delicate truce. But for the Stoic, balance isn't a truce, it's the natural state of a mind that accepts reality without resistance. Both traditions seek harmony, but they start from different premises. The Jedi fears corruption, the Stoic seeks understanding. One fights against the shadow, the other integrates it. And in that integration lies true freedom. Not the fragile peace of avoiding darkness, but the unshakable calm of knowing it's part of the whole. When Yoda tells Luke, "You will know the good from the bad when you are calm, at peace," he is echoing the Stoic ideal, because calm is not the absence of the storm. It is the realization that the storm itself belongs to the same sky. Number 5. The fear of love. Emotional repression versus Stoic apatheia. The Jedi Code teaches discipline, control, and emotional restraint, virtues that echo Stoic philosophy at first glance. But when we look closer, the difference between their wisdoms becomes dramatic. For the Jedi, attachment is forbidden. Love, they believe, leads to jealousy, and jealousy to the dark side. To avoid pain, they suppress connection. But in their pursuit of control, they often mistake repression for strength. That mistake, as we see in Anakin Skywalker, is fatal. His tragedy wasn't that he loved, it's that he loved without wisdom, because he was taught to fear what makes him human. The Stoics, on the other hand, never condemned emotion itself. Their goal was not to erase feeling, but to refine it, to channel it through reason, not extinguish it through fear. Apatheia, in Stoic language, doesn't mean without feeling. It means freedom from pathos, the irrational emotions that distort judgment. A Stoic feels deeply, but not destructively. He doesn't run from love. He learns to love rightly. Heracles, one of the later Stoics, envisioned humanity as a series of concentric circles: self, family, friends, community, and finally, all mankind. Heracles taught, Our task is to draw these circles closer, to bring the outer ones into ourselves, to treat every human being as kin. That's not emotional detachment, that's radical connection. Love in Stoicism isn't weakness, it's a moral responsibility. To care for others is to live according to nature, because we are all parts of one rational whole. The difference lies in the type of love we practice. Possessive love, like Anakin's, seeks control. Virtuous love seeks understanding. One clings, the other gives. Donald Robertson describes this contrast in modern psychological terms. He calls unhealthy attachment the love that fears loss, a craving that masquerades as affection. Healthy love, by contrast, is grounded in acceptance. We cherish others without needing to possess them. Donald Robertson writes, "To love with reason is to love without chains." Yoda's teachings capture half of that truth, the danger of attachment, but miss the other half, the beauty of connection. When he tells Anakin to let go of everything you fear to lose, his words are wise but incomplete. What Anakin needed wasn't the suppression of love, it was the education of love. He needed to learn that real affection doesn't demand control. It demands courage, the courage to care, knowing that loss is inevitable. Massimo Pigliucci often reminds his readers that virtue is about harmony with human nature, not escape from it. Massimo Pigliucci explains, "We are social animals. To avoid love for fear of pain is to reject the very essence of what makes us human." The Jedi path, noble though it is, leans toward fear. Fear of desire, fear of connection, fear of the heart. The Stoic path moves in the opposite direction. It asks us to embrace the world fully, to love deeply, and to release freely. Because love that doesn't fear loss is indestructible. Anakin's fall is the story of passion without wisdom. The Stoics' rise is the story of wisdom without coldness. Between those two lies the balance that both the Jedi and the philosopher seek, not the elimination of emotion, but its transformation into virtue. Love, when purified by reason, becomes not a weakness, but the greatest form of strength. Number 6. The Hermit of Dagobah. Retreat versus duty to the world. When the Republic fell and darkness spread across the galaxy, Yoda did something no one expected from the greatest Jedi Master alive. He disappeared. He retreated into exile, hiding in the swamps of Dagobah while the Empire rose and billions suffered. To the Jedi, this withdrawal was strategic. To a Stoic, it would raise a question that cuts deep. Does wisdom demand retreat or engagement? Is the duty of the sage to hide from the world or to serve it, even in defeat? The Stoics believed that true philosophy is lived in public. Wisdom is not a treasure to hoard, but a light to hold up, especially when darkness prevails. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, taught his philosophy not in an ivory tower, but in the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch of Athens, in the open air among merchants and citizens. He believed that virtue was inseparable from community, that to be human is to act, to participate, to serve. Musonius Rufus, who spent years in exile, refused to let isolation silence him. Musonius Rufus said, "No place is too remote for virtue. The good man carries his duty with him wherever he goes." Yoda, for all his serenity, abandoned that duty. While Luke was growing up in ignorance, the galaxy was burning. The Stoic would have stayed in the storm. Marcus Aurelius once wrote about soldiers on the battlefield, saying that each of us is a citizen of the world, placed where duty calls us. A Stoic doesn't choose the time or place of service, only whether to serve well. Modern thinkers like Ryan Holiday interpret this as the Stoic call to action without ego. Even when surrounded by failure, the Stoic does not withdraw from responsibility. He acts within the limits of his power, no matter how small that circle becomes. Ryan Holiday writes, "Do your duty, be kind, help others, that's enough. The rest isn't up to you." Yoda's retreat to Dagobah feels more Taoist than Stoic, a surrender to nature, a step away from conflict. In Taoism, the sage flows like water, bending rather than breaking. There is wisdom in that approach, but it's not Stoic wisdom. The Stoic does not bend to escape pain. He stands firm because duty outweighs comfort. Cato the Younger, for instance, when faced with the tyranny of Julius Caesar, did not flee. He resisted until his final breath, choosing death over submission. Cato the Younger lived the words the Stoics cherished most: virtue over survival. His stand became a symbol of integrity in the face of inevitable defeat. Yoda's silence, in contrast, feels like resignation, a surrender of influence, however justified by patience. And yet, his return to train Luke decades later reveals the paradox. Sometimes retreat is not escape, it's incubation. Perhaps Yoda's exile wasn't cowardice, but preparation. In that stillness, he waited for the right moment to act, the right student to appear. It's a delicate balance between the Stoics' call to serve and the sage's wisdom to wait. The lesson for us, standing between these philosophies, is this: silence is not always peace, and retreat is not always virtue. Wisdom is knowing when to speak and when to prepare. But if your voice can ease the suffering of others, hiding is never the answer. Because in the Stoic world, the greatest strength is not found in solitude, it's found in service. Number 7, the final verdict. A distant cousin, not a twin brother. After tracing the parallels and contradictions between Yoda and the Stoics, the verdict becomes clear. Yoda was not a Stoic philosopher, but he was a distant relative of the same timeless wisdom. His teachings echo Stoicism's greatest principles: self-control, discipline, and detachment from the illusions of emotion. Yet his worldview, divided into light and dark, still belongs to myth, not reason. The Stoic, unlike the Jedi, doesn't fear shadow. He studies it, learns from it, and integrates it. Yoda teaches that balance is a fragile truce between opposites. Stoicism teaches that balance is the natural order of a disciplined mind. Where Yoda seeks to silence emotion, the Stoic seeks to understand it. Where the Jedi fears attachment, the Stoic embraces connection without dependence. And where the Jedi retreats from the galaxy, the Stoic walks directly into it, carrying virtue like a torch through chaos. Chrysippus would have admired Yoda's devotion to inner peace, but he would have questioned his belief in a dark side. For Chrysippus, there are no cosmic enemies, only errors in judgment. Evil is not a force, it's confusion. The mind that sees clearly cannot be corrupted because it recognizes that even suffering has a place within reason's plan. Chrysippus wrote, "The wise man knows that even adversity serves the harmony of the whole." That idea is missing from the Jedi philosophy. The Force, for Yoda, is something to be balanced. For the Stoic, the Logos is something already balanced. There's no war between light and dark, only understanding and ignorance. Joseph Campbell, who inspired George Lucas himself, called this the perennial philosophy, the idea that wisdom repeats across time, appearing in every myth and culture, wearing new names but teaching the same truths. Yoda, in this sense, stands shoulder to shoulder with Marcus Aurelius, with Buddha, with Heraclitus. They all point to the same direction, inward. Massimo Pigliucci describes this universal echo as the recognition that all paths to wisdom converge on a single principle, the mastery of the self. Massimo Pigliucci explains, "Every philosophy worth living begins with self-awareness and ends with acceptance." Yoda might not have read Stoic texts, but he practiced their essence, the stillness of mind, the humility before nature, the courage to face fear. His language was mythic, the Stoics was logical. But both sought to free humanity from slavery to emotion and illusion. In the end, Yoda and the Stoics meet not as teacher and student, but as travelers reaching the same mountain from opposite sides. One carries a lightsaber, the other a pen. One meditates on the Force, the other on reason. Both remind us that peace is not found by conquering the world, but by mastering the self. So perhaps Yoda isn't a Stoic sage, but something just as powerful, a mirror. His mythology translates the same eternal struggle that Chrysippus, Zeno, and modern thinkers like Ryan Holiday continue to describe. The fight for clarity in a noisy universe. In that sense, Yoda doesn't belong to a galaxy far away. He belongs here, in our everyday battles, where the enemy isn't the empire, but the part of ourselves still ruled by fear. Number 8. The wisdom of Dagobah. 3 lessons from Yoda for our lives. Beyond lightsabers and prophecy, Yoda's legacy is practical philosophy, a field guide for the mind. The swamp of Dagobah is more than scenery. It's a metaphor for the human condition. It's murky, unpredictable, full of illusions and hidden depths. Yet within that fog, Yoda finds serenity. His life becomes a demonstration of how wisdom is not about escaping the swamp. It's about learning to breathe within it. Across his lessons, 3 truths emerge that speak directly to our modern world, where distraction, anxiety, and emotional chaos reign supreme. The first lesson, the war that matters most, is internal. When Luke asked what he would face in the cave, Yoda answered, "Only what you take with you." That sentence could be carved into every Stoic text ever written. The enemies we fear, failure, rejection, loss, are not external events, but reflections of our inner turmoil. As Ryan Holiday puts it, the obstacle is the way. We spend our lives battling ghosts we've created ourselves, when the real task is to master perception. The swamp doesn't change, we do. The second lesson, stop trying. Yoda's most famous command, "Do or do not, there is no try," has become one of the most misunderstood quotes in modern culture. It's not about perfectionism or pressure, it's about commitment. Trying is a loophole for hesitation. It means leaving the door open for failure before the work begins. The Stoic equivalent is the principle of focused intention. Virtue is in action, not in the endless deliberation before it. Donald Robertson describes this as living deliberately, removing the mental fog that excuses us from effort. When Yoda says do, he means engage fully, without the safety net of half measures. Donald Robertson explains, clarity of action begins where the illusion of control ends. To do is to accept the limits of the moment, to give your full attention to what's in your hands, not to what you wish you could control. The Stoics called this the discipline of action, the ability to turn thought into motion without fear. And the third lesson, peace exists only in the present. In one of the most profound lines of the saga, Yoda reminds Luke that always in motion is the future. It's a reminder that no amount of worry will stabilize what hasn't yet arrived. This truth, repeated across millennia, is the heart of Stoic mindfulness. William B. Irvine calls it temporal focus, the discipline of anchoring our energy where it can actually make a difference. William B. Irvine writes, "Every moment wasted imagining the future is a theft from the only time we possess, the present." Yoda's wisdom is timeless because it speaks the same language as the Stoics, the language of stillness, of responsibility, of inner power. The galaxy, like our own lives, is filled with chaos, temptation, and noise. Yet the lesson remains. Before you can bring order to the universe, you must bring order to yourself. The swamp of Dagobah isn't out there, it's inside you. And only when you learn to find calm in that inner swamp do you truly become a master of the Force or of reason. So, was Yoda a Stoic? Not exactly. But he was something perhaps even more profound, a living bridge between myth and philosophy, between the language of fantasy and the reality of human struggle. His words, filtered through the poetry of a galaxy far away, carry the same heartbeat that pulsed through the writings of Zeno, Chrysippus, Musonius Rufus, and every thinker who ever tried to tame the chaos of the soul. The swamp of Dagobah and the Stoa of Athens are, in truth, the same classroom, both teaching that peace is not granted by the universe, but built within the mind. When Yoda says, "The greatest teacher, failure is," he's echoing a truth that Stoics have lived for centuries. Adversity is not punishment, but preparation. What breaks others refines the wise. Pain, loss, and fear are not curses. They are invitations to practice strength. Every setback becomes a forge for character. As Chrysippus believed, even misfortune is part of nature's design, shaping the soul through friction. The Stoic doesn't ask for an easier life. He asks for the courage to live the one he has with clarity and calm. Musonius Rufus once said that philosophy is not something to be discussed, but something to be done. Musonius Rufus taught, "A man is not made good by words, but by deeds." That is the ultimate parallel between the Stoic and the Jedi. Wisdom must be practiced. It's not about reading or meditating in silence. It's about applying calm in conflict, compassion in anger, and reason in confusion. Both Yoda and the Stoics call us to transform knowledge into action and action into virtue. If Yoda teaches us anything, it's that enlightenment isn't found in a temple or in exile or in any distant galaxy. It's found in how you face your own mind. The force that the Jedi speak of and the logos that the Stoics revere are one and the same. The rational spark within us that can turn fear into focus, pain into purpose, and confusion into clarity. You don't need a lightsaber to fight your battles. You only need discipline, perspective, and heart. Now I want to hear from you. Which of Yoda's lessons spoke most deeply to you? And how does it echo with your own search for calm and meaning? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your reflection might be the spark that guides someone else's journey. And if this exploration brought you value, remember to like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the Stoic Lighthouse, so this light of wisdom can continue reaching others who walk through the storm. Because in our next journey, we'll uncover a truth that might challenge everything you think you need to live well. It's about how having less can make you stronger, freer, and untouchable. The hidden Stoic secret that our modern world doesn't want you to see. Until then, remember, the Force or the Logos isn't out there. It's already within you, waiting for you to master it. See you in the next video.